Recording has begun. Good evening. This is the August 2024 regular meeting of the Complaint Committee of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force of the City and County of San Francisco. The time is 5:31. The Sunshine Ordinance Task Force and its committees convene in hybrid meetings that allow for either in-person attendance or remote participation. Public comment will be taken on each item of the agenda. Meeting decorum. Any member of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force may call for decorum due to the disorderly conduct of meeting participants. Persons who engage in threatening and/or menacing behavior may be asked to leave. Chair Schmidt, that completes my announcements.
Okay, I think we can just go ahead with number one.
Item 1, call to order, roll call, and agenda changes.
All right.
May I?
Yeah, we're ready to go, I think.
We have
Let's call
4.
roll.
Roll call. Chair Schmidt.
Present.
Chair Schmidt, present. Member Stein.
Present.
Member Stein, present. Member Sugarman, absent. 2 persons, we have a quorum.
Okay, we do have agenda changes. So let me just say that I think a lot of the agenda changes that maybe we're going to be seeing are because we're looking at cases that would maybe in the past have been given more time before they came to us. And so some of these, would have been considered not ready. But we do have some agenda changes because we got some documents the last minute and we got some people who wanted to continue their hearings. But let's go ahead and do them in order, the agenda changes.
The unknown blogger submitted a request to withdraw their complaint, item 4, file number 24040, from the agenda on August 20, 2024. The City Attorney's Office requested a continuance of item 5, file 24041, and complainant Rosa L. granted the continuance. Respondent, Department of Emergency Management, did not receive notice of the August 20, 2024 hearing due to an error by the task force administrator. Sophia de Anda submitted a request for continuance of item 9, file 24045.
Okay, so 4 is off. 5, 6, and 7 are they going? Let's see, 5, 6, and 7 are all Rosa L cases. Are we making any agenda changes on those?
Item 5, complainant has agreed to a continuance.
5's a continuance. Sorry. Okay. 6 and 7 we're going to go ahead with. And then 9, it sounds like, although we'll get it on the record that
Yes.
8, we'll leave 8 on, or is it, wait a minute. Okay. Sorry. Okay. 6 and 7 are on. 8 is still on.
Correct.
9 or 10 is still on, but 9, it looks like well, let's handle 9 when we get to it.
All right.
Yeah. So all except the first 2, I think we're going to go forward with when we get past the preliminaries.
All right.
Okay. So let's move forward. I think we can probably do number 2 now.
Item 2, approval of the July 16, 2024 Complaint Committee meeting minutes.
Okay, member, any changes to the proposed minutes?
No changes from me.
Okay. I think I don't have any changes. So I think maybe we just go ahead and approve them, and I'll make that motion. Yes.
I will second that.
Yeah, I was relying on you there.
And that's Member Stein.
One moment,
Do
please.
you have a question, Ms. Peterson?
No, please wait for me.
Okay.
Moved by Chair Schmidt, seconded by Member Stein to approve the July 16, 2024 minutes. Public comment?
Yes.
We have no one in the room. If there's a member of the online community who would like to make public comment, please raise your hand in the app or press *3 using your phone. I'll give you a moment. We have no hands raised.
Okay, let's vote on that.
Member Stein.
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Chair Schmidt.
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Sugarman, absent. 2 ayes, the motion passes.
Okay, so when you're ready, I think we'll move on to the general public comment item.
Item 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda. We have no one in the room. Members of the online community, raise your hand using the app or press *3. We have no public comment online.
Okay. Public comment is closed, general public comment, that is. And so let's go ahead with our next item.
Item 4, file number 24040. Complaint filed by the unknown blogger against the Municipal Transportation Agency for allegedly violating the Administrative Code Sunshine Ordinance, Section 67.25, by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and/or complete manner. This item, complainant has indicated that they have received the records and would like to close the matter.
The matter is being closed by the complainant.
That's correct.
Okay, got it. All right, next item.
Item number 5, file number 24041. Complaint filed by Rosa L. against David Chu and the City Attorney's Office for allegedly violating Administrative Code Sunshine Ordinance, Section 67.25, by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and/or complete manner. In this case, respondent has requested a continuance and Rosa L. has agreed to the request.
Okay.
Rosa L. is in the online community as well.
All right, Rosa L. is present. I'm amenable to a continuance of the matter. Member Stein? Okay, so let's give them their continuance. I don't think we need to make that a motion.
One moment, please.
Chair Schmidt, since it is on the agenda, we probably should go through the motions of making the motion to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Young. I appreciate that. I will alter what I said earlier, and let's do it by motion. I move that we continue this matter.
I second it. That's Member Stein.
To continue this matter to the next available meeting of the complaint committee?
Yes.
I believe that tentatively will be September the 17th.
Thank you. Public comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
There's no one in the room. Members of the online community, if you'd like to make public comment on item number 5, please raise your hand in the app or press *3 on your telephone. I'll give you a moment. We have no callers in the queue.
All right, let's do the vote on that one then.
Member Stein.
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Chair Schmidt.
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Sugarman, absent. 2 ayes. The motion passes.
All right, let's go to our next item.
Item number 6, file 24042. Complaint filed by Rosa L. against the Office of the Mayor for allegedly violating Administrative Code Sunshine Ordinance, Section 67.25, by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and/or complete manner.
All right, it looks like we are going to have some complaint matters that we're going to review here today. I will give you at this time a picture of what we're going to do, what we're going to do when we review these today. This is a committee of the task force. So as a committee, we do not have the authority or power to make a final decision on any of these cases. But what we do is we look at the case to decide if it is the kind of case that the task force would have jurisdiction on, if the records or the meetings involved are the kind of public records or meetings that come within the ambit of the task force's involvement. We will decide if the case is ready to be sent to the full task force to make any kind of decision that might be appropriate. We may make recommendations, we may not. We will start by allowing each of the parties up to 3 minutes to tell us about anything about your case you want to tell us, knowing that we've already had the opportunity to read the paperwork that's been given to us. The paperwork that was submitted, at least a timely paperwork. I can't guarantee that late paperwork will be considered at this time. And we should, Ms. Peterson, we should note in any of these cases where we got something late, so we should talk about what we want to do with that before we finish up the matter. The petitioner's 3 minutes will be followed by the respondents up to 3 minutes to tell us about your case. After that, the members of the committee will often have questions to ask of the parties. After the questions are asked, we will, as a committee, deliberate and decide what we want to do with the matter. And that will often be sent to the task force, sometimes with a recommendation, sometimes not. And it can be a situation where we try to put it on a task force meeting very soon, and sometimes we put it on what's called our consent calendar. So that's a procedure. Let's go ahead. When Ms. Peterson is ready with the 3-minute timer, let's go ahead and hear from the petitioner in this case, Rosa L.
Petitioner has been added as a panelist. Online callers, if you are here on item 6 for the mayor's office, please raise your hand. It does not appear that we have someone present for respondent. Shall I call Rosa L?
Yes, go ahead. We'll check back before we're done, but at this point, it may be a no-show.
Rosa L, I'm going to unmute you. Hello, Rosa L, are you there?
I am, yes, hi.
Are you ready for your 3 minutes to begin?
Yes.
Your 3 minutes begins now.
Okay, thank you for your time and for agendizing this item. So yeah, I won't go over everything that's in the packet, but the long and short of it is I submitted an IDR, and I believe the mayor's office violated the Sunshine Ordinance in 3 ways. First, it failed to respond in a timely manner. Second, it improperly denied the IDR request. And third, it failed to produce any records at all, in spite of such records existing on the day of my request. So the first one I think is pretty cut and dry. I submitted the request on June 29th, filed the complaint with the SOTF on July 8th, and receive a response from the city until after that. Point 2 is that the city denied the IDR. I asked for the latest message on like a few apps. I believe that is very clearly readily answerable and a very simple request. You just open the text, you just press the text button on your phone, you see what the latest message is, and you send that over. And I think I requested, what was it, 1, 2, like 4 or 5 different applications. So 4 or 5 little screenshots is all I was asking for. And I will say, like, they took 6 weeks to respond, but they responded with no responsive records. So that's the third point. And that's concerning for a couple of reasons. One is I had also requested the mayor's voicemails and call logs, the latest one, and I received none of that as well. So that means that the mayor had no text messages, no chat messages, no voicemails, and no calls at all, which I find to be very strange and unlikely. To make matters worse, I requested from DPW messages between the head of DPW and the mayor from the date of my request to the mayor's office, and they released to me text messages sent to the mayor, which I submitted to the SOTF, I think a day or 2 after the deadline. So I'm not sure if you are including that in the packet, but it is there. Screenshots of the text messages to the mayor's phone about city business on the day that I made the request to the mayor's office, which makes me very concerned that the messages are being deleted, which has drastic concerns, regarding the Sunshine Ordinance, because of course the Sunshine Ordinance is only useful to the public if records are retained. And so I would really like, the SOTF, and honestly the city attorney, if that's possible at some point, to ask the mayor, hey, how is the mayor communicating with city officials?
That concludes your time.
Sure, and what the retention policy is there.
That concludes your time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's give one more chance to the mayor's office. Just technology, who knows?
Mayor's office, if you're in the online community, please raise your hand using the app or press *3. We have no one raising their hand.
Okay, and it does seem like they would certainly not be unaware at the mayor's office about this hearing. So they're a no-show. they're not appearing here today. So any questions? We have Rosa L. Member Stein, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
Not really any questions. I just had one suggestion. If this goes forward, you did include the like a copy of texts seemingly, between the mayor and DPW, but there was nothing in that other than your assertion that it came directly from DPW. To my memory, this was something we got late. I know you say you requested it, but then it just sort of appears as a separate text. And I think it might be helpful when it goes, if and when it goes to the full task force, if you give a little more of the context within the message to show that that did come from DPW, even though you do assert it. But I don't put too much weight on that alone, because I did recall, and I looked it up, that we have seen in the past other examples of text messages, for instance, between the mayor and the chief of police. So we know there is a past in which the mayor has used texts. I do think it's useful that this was included in the packet, but I feel like just for the other members, it would be good if they can see clearly that it came from DPW beyond just the assertion that it came from them.
May I speak on that?
Sure.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I did attach, so the two documents that I sent as a supplemental, one was a screenshot of the text itself, and then the second was a text document that has a link to the next request, DPW request, so that
I didn't try to click on that link. Sometimes they work for us, sometimes they don't. Hopefully that one does.
Got it. Okay.
But like I said, I also kind of dug up that we had at least one other example of text between the mayor and people. So I don't, I think there's other examples it can hinge on.
I'm trying to think. I did have a question or two for the mayor's office on this. It did. A question for Roselle. You said that you did not get any kind of substantive response from them for 6 weeks. Is that right?
Let me confirm the exact amount of time. I would say it took them 6 weeks to complete the request. Is
completed? Okay.
That's the timeline. And again, if there are no messages, that's very concerning because
and your concern is that. I just want to clarify, because there's a kind of a weird wrinkle for us here as the task force, but your concern in terms of like the big scheme of things is that, for example, the DPW produced to you this page of texts dated June 29, and that you asked the mayor and you got nothing. And so what that might mean is that the mayor deleted them. That's one of your concerns here, correct?
Yes, that is one of them. Yeah.
Okay. And certainly I completely understand, that is concerning. I will tell you that how much we actually get into records retention issues it's unclear. Generally, we do see some records retention problems, but it's not necessarily within our jurisdiction to look at those. And so unfortunately, I wish I could look at this and say, hey, they're not, they're doing something wrong by erasing these, but that may be more of a political than a legislative issue. That's just an aside to you for what we're looking for, because ultimately, in your case, we're looking for them to act fast and to give you everything that's in their possession. And what they seem to be saying is that nothing exists in any of these categories. Let me ask you this: is that the only time that you've made this kind of particular request to the mayor's office looking for these types of documents in these formats?
No, I've been requesting records from city agencies, including the mayor's office, for several years.
Mhm.
And there was a pretty clear time at which they stopped releasing text messages and chat messages, and that was around the time that I publicized Mayor Breed's text with the police chief, which made a bunch of headlines in about 2020-ish, 2021. And after that point, I'll also just say, from my experience, it's very well known that that's an inflection point after which those records have no longer been released to me or any journalists that I've spoken to.
Okay, and just when you say it's well known, is that sort of among journalists? Is that what you mean by well known, or is it something further than that?
Anybody that I know that files public records requests. So usually that's journalists. Sometimes it's advocates of various kinds.
Okay, and we're talking about the mayor specifically, or is there a bigger group that you would fit into that sort of categorization of they just sort of stopped at some point in, say, 2021 or 2022?
In terms of not releasing anything versus, let's say, other challenges that other departments have in terms of, for example, being extremely slow to the point of being effectively useless. In this case, it's when there is nothing to release, that renders, for me at least, the Sunshine Ordinance useless. And I would say that mostly applies to the mayor's office. I have some concerns about the city attorney's office, which was going to be on the agenda today as well, because I received nothing from them. So that would be something else that I wanted to look at. But I would say the mayor's office is primarily the area where that's happened.
Okay, thank you. All right. On this one, I don't think I have any other questions. And Member Stein, unless you have anything further, let's go ahead and deliberate and figure out what we want to do with this matter. Oh, actually, I believe we do have a representative from the mayor's office. Yes.
Mr.
Okay, Mr. Heckel. And I'm going to just say Mr. Heckel just arrived in the room. We're on 42, which is your item. We've already sort of almost wrapped up the hearing. This is a pretty cut and dry matter. It looks like the mayor's response on this was that at the time of the request, there were no responsive documents in the possession of the mayor's office. I'm going to start with, is a question to you, is that accurate about this case, number 42?
Yes. Good evening, Chair Schmidt. Apologies for coming in late, but yes, that's correct. We received Rosa L's request initially as an immediate disclosure request. We informed them that we needed more time due to the numerous different platforms that were identified in the request, and we needed to consult and perform an inquiry to see if the mayor had any such messages preserved on any of those, in any of those platforms, on any devices or accounts. And we we performed our inquiry and we concluded that there were no records. There was nothing nothing preserved that would have been responsive. Nothing available at that
Okay.
time. Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's the essence of the case. Do you think that there's anything else we should know here that you would want to tell us? I did know we got a document that it was a little bit late. It would seem to indicate that maybe there was a text, but maybe it didn't exist anymore from the Department of Public Works. I'm not sure if that's anything dramatic that we wouldn't expect here. But any other comments, Mr. Heckel, about this matter before we sort of figure out if we're going to send it to the full task force?
Can we
Oh,
also
Member Stein, yes.
potentially have questions to Mr. Heckel as the response?
Oh, yeah, we may have questions. Yeah.
Do you know what the date of these the referenced message was? Sorry to
June
turn a question back to you.
29, 2024.
Okay, so that is from this year. So I'm assuming the Rosa L received this from Public Works. So, that we're not disputing the authenticity of these messages. It's simply a matter of the records not being subject to our retention policy, our office retention policy, as just sort of day-to-day communications. And so at the time the request was made, these texts were no longer available.
Okay. Anything else? I think Member Stein has a couple questions, but I'll let you tell us anything else that you would want to say in statement form about the case. Maybe it's nothing.
Before or would Member Stein have questions now? Or
let's go to the questioning.
Okay.
That's fine.
Sorry, so I just had a couple questions for Mr. Heckel. Does the mayor communicate by text or other electronic communication typically?
I mean, she does from time to time, I think. Not in for most of the platforms, no. The only platform I'm actually aware of is text. There was like WhatsApp and Signal, Telegram, other kinds of messaging apps. She doesn't use that. She doesn't use even email. Really is just although she has an official account, it's typically staff that manages that account. So it would just be text.
And you mentioned a records retention policy for the mayor's communication.
Mm-hmm.
What is that policy?
Well, the policy is a document that sets out various categories of documents, various categories of retention periods and requirements. It's pretty similar to, it pretty closely follows the template that other departments have as a record retentions policy, which you may or may not have seen. We provided that separately to Rosa in a separate request that they had. But basically, there are certain records that do require. It's kind of a tier system. Like the highest tier requires a certain number of years. Those would be things like personnel records, certain legislative files. The mayor's Prop G calendar is retained for a certain amount of time. Form 700 financial disclosures for staff. But typically, most of the day-to-day communications, like emails, texts of the mayor and staff, assuming they have no separate ongoing legal significance or other operational significance, are typically treated as non-records, kind of in the parlance of the record retention policies. I know that they are records, of course, for public records purposes if they're available and are requested, but if they're not needed on an ongoing basis, there's no retention period specified, and therefore they don't have to be retained. But there is a document that, I mean, I could provide that for the.
That wasn't,
Yeah.
yeah, we didn't
Yeah.
see that, but so.
It's not in the file now, I understand. Yeah.
So if electronic communications are considered day-to-day communication that are not, don't rise to a level of something the office believes it needs to protect, is there someone who's in charge of deleting those on a daily basis, or what is the process?
No, it's sort of just up to the discretion of the individual. I mean, people can retain things longer if they want to keep things for their own reference. We don't have the Office of the Mayor does not have city issued phones, so everyone just has their own personal phone, which they, may or may not use for city related texts. And if whenever sunshine requests come in that implicate text, we always just ask the custodian to check their phones and send screenshots or other copies of the text if they have them.
Thank you.
Mr. Heckel, the retention policy, were you involved in the development of that policy at all?
No, that goes back a long ways. That goes back to at least 2014, before Mayor Breed was mayor. And it's something that is fairly uniform in the way that it's created and approved. And I think it's in the admin code, and it's like section 8 of the administrative code, that it's actually approved for each department has one. And then for each department, it's approved by the department head, the city attorney. I think the retirement system head has to approve it, and then maybe the city administrator. Mm-hmm. So they approve all the record retention policies, including ours.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any further questions. Okay, let's.
Could I just speak to the timing?
Yeah.
The timing issue.
Go ahead, please.
So I know the Rosa L had sent this. There was some issue that we haven't totally figured out why. It basically didn't get into our inbox. I don't know. It might have gotten picked up by a filter or a junk mail screen. I couldn't find it in the junk mail or those types of folders because Rosa had sent an additional follow up within a week or two later saying you haven't responded to this, and we just hadn't seen it yet. And then we did get it. We kind of invoked the normal record response time instead of the immediate disclosure period because of the need to check all these platforms, and we have to sort of consult with the mayor and appropriate staff. And so anyway, there was some challenges in just sort of making sure we did a thorough search, and so that's what accounts for the timing. So I just wanted to speak to that, as I believe that's kind of the remaining issue that at that and the retention issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I think we've got a contention that there was a delay in the response. It does seem like the response that said that there was no longer anything that existed that may have existed because according to the retention policy, it wasn't necessary to keep it around. So that sort of technically means that the response itself was accurate. So I don't know if we would be sort of in order, imposing an order kind of territory here. However, I am I think when we do send this to the task force, I think it might be good to take a look at their retention policy. Partly because I don't want to say at this point, I don't have it in front of me, but I'd like to look back at our ordinance because I think that there may be a contradiction there, and I think we'd want to get that on the record at least, because that may also apply to other departments. Those are my thoughts on this matter.
May I respond to the timing question?
I'll allow it.
Time?
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that while there was an initial miscommunication, or not miscommunication, but delayed communication because the mayor's office did not receive the original request, but did receive the reminder, the response was nevertheless both longer than the IDR requirements and longer than the standard or the 10-day period that the mayor's office also explicitly said that it would respond. So I just wanted to state that because I believe it remains a violation, both because it was unnecessarily deemed not an IDR and because it would have violated the Sunshine Ordinance either way.
Got it. Thank you. All right. So any other members with any other thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, my main thought was to send it to the full task force since the records weren't received. Maybe with recommendation of a 6721 violation for timeliness since they weren't produced in the prescribed time frame. I personally don't believe this request was simple, routine, or readily answerable, even though it might have been answerable with, one text or one message. Still, the process of looking for that is a little bit more complicated. And so for that reason, I see it as more of a 6721. And then also maybe to look at whatever the record retention policy is. And then I was looking in the law. I can't remember where I've seen it before, but I thought we had this kind of principle that once a public records request was made, you weren't supposed to destroy any records or that might be related to that, but I actually can't find it right now in the CPRA or in the Sunshine Ordinance. So I'm not sure where that came from. It might be in the Good Government Guide, but I haven't looked there yet.
I actually think that I have not seen such a thing. I think it may be more of I'll call it an urban legend.
Okay, it could be.
Yeah, it's sort of like sending out a cease and desist letter. It doesn't really have that much of a legal effect, but if you send out a cease and desist letter or a do not destroy documents letter, then you can always say, hey, I sent this letter, and therefore maybe it just calls attention, people's attention to something.
May I just speak to that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So Member Stein, I would somewhat agree that, I mean, when a request is received, we certainly treat it as an obligation to preserve anything that might be responsive. And I mean, it's not a perfect system because something comes in immediately. You have to go, right? You have to sort of get to the right custodians in time and put them on notice that there is a request, and there, we certainly would not, we would absolutely not, dispose of something pursuant to the retention policy once a request was in. Like, the request would kind of trump the retention policy. I think what happened here was that the initial request was sent on the 29th. But as I said, we didn't, if you look at the record, I had no record of getting it until July 11th, I think. And so there was a lag there that we weren't on notice about it. So it's not that we just sort of went ahead and disregarded the request. We just weren't on notice of it until 12 days later. And by so at that time there may not have been responsive records, but we would have made every effort to preserve anything responsive at the moment we got the request if we had in fact received it earlier.
Can you just I want to go back. It sounds like could you confirm that what would happen in this kind of case is the person who would look at the mayor's phone when a request like this comes in is the mayor. Your office, the mayor's office, would notify the mayor that the mayor needs to look at the mayor's phone to look for these texts. Is that how it would work in this?
Yeah,
situation?
that's more or less how it would work. I mean, I would put out a notice to staff assisting the mayor who is with the mayor at events frequently and so on, would have the ability to work with her and check the phone. So it would be get the message out so that they can check it. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's kind of consistent with the I think the San Jose case that sort of opened up personal devices to public records requests under California law that officials may use personal devices for public business, and then the obligation kind of rests with the custodian to do a good faith search rather than a department kind of seizing a phone or backing it up or whatever the case might be.
I think the San Jose case, if it was a city phone, then it would be considered public records. But if it's the mayor's personal phone, then the mayor, as the owner of the phone, is allowed to look through it to figure out which is personal, which is not. Is that?
Yeah, that's my understanding. That it's sort of the responsibility rests with the owner of the device or account that you. Okay. There's no obligation that the agency has to sort of, take. Yeah. I mean, we would work with the mayor anyway, but just as a matter of practice, we don't sort of say like hand over, to anyone in the office. We wouldn't say, give me your phone. I'm going to go through your phone. It's more like make a good faith effort, search it. If there's responsive material, you screenshot it or whatever means to capture it, send it to me so I can review it for production.
Okay. And so the mayor here, there's actually no phone that the city issues for the mayor's use that is involved here, right?
No, and no one in the mayor's office has a city issued phone.
Nobody
does. I mean, some departments are different. Some departments have, some senior staff have phones, or some kind of more line staff have phones. It's just it's really case by case.
Okay. Got it. All right.
And it's an expense, obviously, to have a phone. So.
Any other? Okay. It seems like we do have a time issue. I'm not quite sure. Do you think that we might have any interest in the retention policy, or have we pretty much sort of like gone through that before and thought that's not our issue? I'm concerned here that maybe there's something that the Sunshine Ordinance particularly would say about this, and I don't have it in front of me, so I just want to defer on looking through that.
I feel like generally we've said that we don't set retention policies, but I feel like there is there has been interest in understanding what different retention policies might be and whether they might come into conflict with some of the
Yeah.
principles behind open public records.
Yeah.
But I don't think we thought it was our place to interfere
Okay.
or that we could make judgments about the retention policy.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
But others might disagree with me.
Yeah. It's my thought that maybe we would make the request to see the policy, because I doubt if it's going to be a problem that they would give us a copy, and that we would then have it in the packet for the full task force. Maybe it becomes we just look at it and we say, okay, hands off, or maybe there's something about it that we do want to be looking at. That's just an idea that maybe that's what we want to do here. Or if you don't think it's the case that we should do that on, maybe we do that some other time. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if Rosa L. or Mr. Heckle want to put the retention policy in the packet. I think members would be interested to see it. But what I'm seeing here is just so far a straightforward 6721 timeliness violation. So that I would still want to send it to the full task force because I think it's an odd kind of case. And also my understanding was like that, well, yeah, I guess that 629 message, which we saw from DPW, which was from the same day the request was made, was already gone, 2 weeks later, when the mayor's office decided to look at it. That seems very fast, but so for that kind of reason, I feel like people might want to look at what's happening there.
Yeah. Okay. I'll make a motion that we send this matter to the full task force. We find that this involves public documents, and the task force has jurisdiction. We recommend a finding of failure to respond timely under 67.21. And we are going to make a request that the parties supply for the full task force a copy of the mayor's office's retention policy.
Second.
I'll second that.
Moved by Chair Schmidt, seconded by Member Stein, to find that the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force has jurisdiction over the matter, that the requested records are public, and refer the matter to the full task force with a recommendation to find a violation of Administrative Code Section 67.21 for failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and/or complete manner. The committee further requests that the mayor's office produce its retention policy. Is there interest in including a statement that a knowledgeable representative be present at the task force meeting to interpret or discuss or answer questions about the retention policy?
I don't see a need to add that. Thank you for the suggestion. But
I'm knowledgeable. I'll be there.
Okay. Then it ends at the committee further requests that the mayor's office produce its retention policy at the task force hearing.
before the
task force hearing. Is there a time frame?
Let's see if we can. You mean a time frame for what hearing to put this on?
I'm sorry, a time frame for producing the mayor's office retention policy to the task force prior to the hearing.
Just that it be produced so that we have it for the full task force hearing. That's the time frame on it. Yeah, submitted with all other documentation that would go before the task force.
All right.
I'll send it after the hearing.
That'd be great.
It's easy, very simple to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be of interest to take a look at that.
Thank you.
Okay,
Public comment?
Yeah.
There's no one in the room to provide public comment. Members of the online community, if you'd like to speak on item 6, please raise your hand in the app pressing *3 or use the app. I'll give you a moment. We have no hands raised.
all right, let's vote.
Member Stein.
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Chair Schmidt.
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Sugarman, absent. 2 ayes, the motion passes.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks, Mr. Heckel.
Thank you, Chair Schmidt. Thank you, Member Stein.
Thanks,
Clerk
Rosa.
Peterson. Good to see you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Item
Okay,
7.
next matter.
Item 7. File 24043, complaint filed by Rosa L. against the Department of Emergency Management for allegedly violating Administrative Code Sunshine Ordinance, Section 67.25, by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and/or complete manner. In this case, respondent did not receive a correct notice of hearing due to an error by the administrator in the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. They did not receive any notice and are unable to attend tonight.
All right, so we need to continue this. Department of Emergency Management, is there going to be a problem ascertaining the right way to communicate with them?
There is not. We have obtained the original email indicating who should be notified of Sunshine meetings, and we're going to implement that.
Okay, and did the parties, well, Rosa L., yeah, we need to move this because we simply cannot go forward if they didn't get proper notice. So yeah, let's, I'm going to move that we take this off calendar and continue it to our next available date, which would be a month from now.
Second?
Second, I second.
Moved by Chair Schmidt, seconded by Member Stein, to continue the matter to the next available complaint committee hearing. Do you wish more said?
I guess we're ready for public comment on the continuance motion.
There's no one in the room. Members of the online community, if you would like to speak on item 7, please raise your hand in the app or press *3. I'll give you a moment. We have no hands raised.
Okay, let's go ahead with a vote.
Member Stein.
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Chair Schmidt.
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Sugarman, absent. 2 ayes, the motion passes.
Okay, when you're ready, let's go ahead with the next item.
Item 8, file 24044. Complaint filed by Rosa L. against the Police Department for allegedly violating Administrative Code Sunshine Ordinance, Section 67.21, by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and/or complete manner. We do have Lieutenant Beauchamp in the online community. One moment, please, moving him to a panelist position. Rosa L. is still a panelist. Lieutenant Beauchamp has been added.
Okay, great. In a moment, I will ask to hear from the parties. I'll just say for the record that in this one, we did receive a late submission. August 19, we received from the respondent a response in a letter describing this is a letter basically setting forth a response to the complaint before the task force. That I don't know if I got that before the hearing, but I have a copy of it in front of me here today. But I'll ask first to Rosa L. Before I ask you to talk about the case, have you received the response from the police department?
There are two complaints about SFPD today. If we are, I think that I'm looking at the right one, which is 24044, which is from 2023.
Yeah.
I do not believe I've received a response.
Okay. I will just, again, because we got this late, we just sort of have to wing it and figure out how we're going to work this into the hearing. But I am looking at okay, we got a response sent over from the police department by email. And
quickly clarify on that.
There's a letter, and there appear to be about 5 to 10 pages of possibly responsive documents, although it may mainly be communications about the request that you made to them. I'm not sure. So that's just, I'm just telling you that. I know you don't have it before you, and we'll just need to somehow figure out a way to get you a copy outside of this hearing here today. So with that said, I'm going to ask that we go ahead and hear from the parties. And let's start when the timer's ready with the petitioner, Rosa L.
Rosa L., I'm going to unmute. Oh, you have unmuted yourself. Are you ready for your 3 minutes?
Yes.
Your 3 minutes begins now.
Yeah, so I filed this last year and haven't received a response to my knowledge, which seems cut and dry. And this, along with the other request, the other complaint on the agenda today, and the other complaints filed against SFPD in the past, make me concerned about the usefulness of the Sunshine Ordinance as it applies to SFPD. Just, in the same way that if the mayor's office does not keep its communications, they cannot be of use to the public. Similarly, if delays are longer or violating the law, that's also not useful or diminishingly useful to the public. I know that SFPD mentioned in the past that it was looking to increase staffing or capacity when it comes to responding to requests. And yeah, I'm just concerned, that it's very taxing for people to show up to these meetings and, have to deal with late replies every single request that is made. Hinders our ability to be journalists, to do the work that we're doing. So yeah, I hope that the SOTF and SFPD take that concern seriously. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, when the timer is ready, we can hear from Lieutenant Beauchamp.
Lieutenant, are you ready for your 3 minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
Your 3 minutes begins now.
Hello, task force members. In regards to this request, the police department does stipulate that we did not respond in a timely fashion. I believe as Acting Sergeant Ruweka, who I believe is also as part of this online meeting, can attest to, occurred during a time where our media relations unit was seeing some changes in leadership, and thus the request was not dealt with in a timely fashion. We've since reviewed the request and are working on trying to fulfill it. One of the complications that the police department is currently undergoing is that the requested information is part of a lawsuit that the city and county of San Francisco is currently undergoing regarding the 2023 hill bombing. So we are in consultation with the city attorney's office as to what information can be released.
All right, thank you. Member Stein, any questions?
No.
All right. Okay, so let me confirm. It sounds to me that Lieutenant Beauchamp, there have been no responsive records produced to date on this one, right?
For this request, no.
Okay, got it. And same question to Roselle. You've got nothing on this request.
Correct.
All right. Okay. I think that this one to me looks like we send it to the consent calendar, timing violation, and we're going to impose our order. I think this looks like textbook to me that we do it that way. Anything else?
My only question was because, I mean, yes, there's
The
an
lawsuit.
admitted lateness. Well, no, just because no records have been provided. I wondered if we should still send it to the full SOTF.
I'm not understanding. It sounds like there are going to be records at some point, and they didn't say there's no records. So, what I'm saying is consent calendar, I think.
No, I know you're saying consent calendar.
Yeah.
I just wonder if it goes to consent calendar and we say, yes, there's a violation, but no records have been provided. And yet some records exist. Like, how do we,
We order that they be produced
okay,
under 67.21.
Okay,
That's the
all
order
right.
that
okay,
I'm meaning. So one, we find it a delay violation, which is conceded here. And two, we order immediate production.
okay,
How about that?
okay.
Okay. So I'll just state the motion. Move to advance this matter and forward it to the consent calendar on the next task force meeting. And the proposal for the consent calendar is that there be a finding of a timeliness violation under section 67.21, and that the respondent be ordered to produce all responsive documents pursuant to section 67.21.
The only thing I would like you to add is just in that wording to indicate that the respondent has acknowledged the lateness of the production.
You know, yes. Patricia, is there a way to put it in where we talk about the delay? Acknowledged timeliness violation. We could just put in the word acknowledged timeliness violation.
Okay.
Let me see here.
An acknowledged 6721 timeliness violation.
Can I make a suggestion?
Oh, go ahead,
Yes.
Mr. Young.
After you make the motion to find the violation, you should say the committee or the full task force notes that the respondent acknowledges that a violation did occur or something of that nature.
That's
We can
fine.
write it into the motion in that method.
We'll add that on at the end.
I think the suggestion was to include it in the order for the task force. Is that correct, Mr. Young?
Yes, at the end of the motion, though. You know, just, so TF notes that the respondent acknowledges that that a violation did occur.
Here's what I have, and in keeping with the structure, the consistent structure that we have for motions, I have. Is this moved by Chair Schmidt, seconded by Member Stein? If yes, moved by Chair Schmidt, seconded by Member Stein, to find that the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force has jurisdiction over the matter, that the requested records are public, and refer the matter to the consent calendar with a recommendation to find a violation of Administrative Code Section 67.21 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and/or complete manner. The committee further orders production of all responsive documents pursuant to 6721. We need a timing in there. The committee further orders immediate production of all responsive documents pursuant
I
to
don't think we need to put a time in
6721.
this, as long as we get it before the meeting. Maybe orders the production prior to the full task force hearing or something of that nature.
What I wanted to do is order it under the time guidelines of the ordinance itself. And so I think just referring to the ordinance means I don't think we need to specify a time.
Okay.
Are you saying that we?
No. That is perfectly fine. Request that the respondent provide all responsive documents in accordance with the Sunshine Ordinance.
Yes, exactly.
With no mention of the section
6721.
pursuant to 6721. And how would you like the wording for acknowledgement?
Yes, that SOTF notes that the respondent acknowledges that the response was late.
I'm sorry, is that a late response or late production?
Late response.
The committee further orders production of all responsive documents pursuant to 6721. Period. The task force notes that respondent acknowledges its late response or a late response.
Good. We got it, I think.
Public comment? If there's anyone in the online community who would like to make public comment on item 8, please raise your hand in the app or press *3. I'll give you a moment. We have no hands raised.
All right, let's vote.
Member Stein.
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Chair Schmidt.
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Sugarman, absent. 2 ayes, the motion passes.
Okay, we have actually, we're not, we're going to have one item not involving Rosa L here. And so let's go to 9 and then we'll go to 10, which is Rosa L Police Department matter again. So could you call the matter?
Item 9, file number 24045. Complaint filed by Sophia De Anda against the Human Services Agency for allegedly violating Administrative Code Sunshine Ordinance Section 67.21 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and/or complete manner.
Okay, I'll first ask, what parties do we have here for this matter today?
Complainant has requested a continuance of this matter until records are received from the department. No parties are present.
Oh, okay, so there's no, did the respondent agree to a continuance, or are we just going to operate under the complainant's right for a continuance?
The latter.
Clause?
This
Okay.
one does not have to.
Okay.
Request.
Okay, so the complainant requests a continuance.
Correct.
And this is just a question at this point. Does plaintiff wants to not have a hearing until plaintiff gets the documents?
That is Ms. DeAnda's statement. She did
Okay.
not want to appear this evening and requested a continuance until documents had been produced.
Okay. Well, then we're not going to have a hearing, but let's talk about this. If this is a bit unusual. Member Stein, do you have thoughts on this?
I had a question. Is this the first request for a continuance?
Yes.
I just wondered. Yeah, I almost want to go back and look at what is the purpose of a hearing. Because obviously if the documents are provided, they're, well, I mean, I guess they could still bring it for a lateness hearing. But I think there are bigger problems with this file, including the fact that there's no original public records request that's been produced. There seems to be some responses to a demand for information that was put to the SOTF, but there's no evidence that it was originally put to the agency, and the agency has asked for, a clearer request, because it seems like an overall analysis of data is being asked for.
Mhm.
But it's not clear what data, and it's not clear that analysis exists anywhere. So my original thought would be to ask that that the public records request be produced, or we should close the file. Because it doesn't seem like something that should even come for a hearing without the original records request. Like, I just am not seeing a request that an agency could easily respond to, or any engagement that might allow the petitioner to make a more effective request, or make an effective request.
All well stated. I had many of the same thoughts. It seemed like the thrust of what was going on here was an assertion of discrimination. And if there's a proceedings, and I'm not looking at exactly who this proceeding would be before, but if there's a proceeding where there's a claim of discrimination, that proceeding will have its own document requirements, its own document processes. And it might be that there's somewhat of a confusion with what you can get in that proceeding versus what you can get pursuant to a public records request. And also, agree, you can't make a public records request without making a public records request. And I'm not sure if I'm seeing one here either. I wonder if we had the ability, if we felt confident enough to sort of dispose of the case and say, we don't want to see it back until there's an actual request made, maybe we could do that. And then we're like making things move better. Although I'm not sure if I feel like we have the ability to avoid the fact that this is a first request for a continuance, and that seems to be what the rules require. I'm kind of split on that because I like, if I see a case that it seems like there's an essential thing missing, then it would be a lot more efficient to just deal with it when it gets seen, as opposed to sending it back into the process and making like the whole task force look at it.
So I thought that cases weren't supposed to come to us unless there was included in them an original copy of a records request. Is that not correct? Can I ask Ms. Peterson?
That is correct. A complaint can come in the form of an email.
I believe that the question is slightly different.
Mhm.
Upon receipt of a complaint, we're supposed to receive a copy of what they were asking for and the request made to the department. To further this along, there may have been some difficulty conveying that requirement to the complainant, and we accepted it to allow the committee to help us convey that to the complainant.
Got it. Understood.
Because if we say, no, we won't take it, and they insist, there's not much room for the administrator to dispute it on our own power.
Yeah, I completely agree. The rules sort of, if the person makes a complaint, they want to go forward, and they don't give anyone a copy of their records request, they still cannot be stopped from going forward. They simply have to go forward, and then we look at it and say, hey, where's your records request? And if you got no records request, then we throw the case away. That's my reading of how that's supposed to go. So it sounds to me like maybe an additional part of the answer to Member Stein is that to all appearances, that the people who are Mr. Young, Ms. Peterson, Ms. Leger, they made efforts to find any kind of request that may be out there. And if it does exist, it already is in the file. It may simply not exist.
Right. I mean, it's what I see here is kind of what I would call almost a research question. Like they have a big question they want to pose to this agency, but there's not really been any specification about what records would help them come up with an answer to that big question. And I think there has been some attempt on part of the agency to address that, but it just remains kind of nebulous. One of the questions I would have asked the respondent is, can you help us understand what records might be responsive to this big question that this person wants to pose? Whether they could look at, for instance, how many MST claims were filed through the HSA over the last 10 or 20 years, or just, what data and services were provided, so that if somebody had a list of potential things that could be provided and they saw what was provided, then they could also kind of infer what wasn't provided. I don't know. But we haven't even gotten that far, since the petitioner is not interested in coming unless they already received the answer. But the answer isn't the same as the question being asked is not the same as a records request.
Chair Schmidt, may I make a
Yes.
suggestion?
Yes.
Maybe we should make a motion to find that the task force does not have jurisdiction over this complaint, as there is does not appear to be any requests for records submitted to the department. And
That's a good idea.
just
I like
that
that.
once that does happen, they can file a new complaint at any time.
Yeah, they can always or they can file a complaint, although if they don't make the document request in some kind of cognizable form, then the complaint is not going to go anywhere. They're going to need to do both things to be able to get something, but they'll have a chance to do it. Yes. What do you think, Member Stein? I think this may actually be a case where we use the jurisdiction part of what we're supposed to be doing here. I would say we put it on the consent calendar, and with that being the basis for putting it on the consent calendar.
Yeah, I think so. I think, I was just looking at the wording of the text, and there's that, I think it's 6721C saying that a request has to have, has to do with a particular subject or questions with enough specificity to enable the requester to identify records in order to make a request. And I feel like because that's not there, we can't really invoke our jurisdiction. I think that's good. So let's see, how would you put this? I will move to find that the SOTF does not have jurisdiction in the matter and refer the matter to the SOTF consent agenda, due to the fact that we lack a specific records request in this case.
And the consent agenda asking for a ruling of
Interesting. I'm actually looking at the motion templates. It doesn't say.
finding no violation. Finding no
SOTF
violation.
does not have jurisdiction.
Okay.
So I currently have moved by Member Stein, seconded by Chair Schmidt, to find that the task force does not have jurisdiction and refers the matter to the SOTF consent agenda due to the fact that we lack a specific records request in this case.
Okay. I'll second.
Public comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
We have no one in the room. If there's a member in the online community who would like to make public comment, please raise your hand in the app or press *3. I'll give you a moment. We have no callers in the queue.
Okay. Public is very satisfied with us. All right, let's do a vote.
Chair Schmidt?
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Member Sugarman, absent. 2 ayes, the motion passes.
Okay. And one more case.
Item 10, file number 24047. Complaint filed by Rosa L. against the police department for allegedly violating Administrative Code Sunshine Ordinance Section 67.25 by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and/or complete manner. We have Rosa L. and Lieutenant Beauchamp as panelists.
All right. And somewhat similar to the previous item with the parties, we've gotten two communications from the SFPD, one dated Monday the 19th, the next dated today, the 20th at 4:18:40 p.m. I'm just sort of noting at this point that we've received those, and I want to make sure that we get those same communications over to the petitioner. So before we start out, Lieutenant Beauchamp, did you send these over to the 19th and the 20th messages in their content over to Rosa L?
I did not. I believe one of the attendees may be my counterpart, Acting Sergeant Rob Rueka, and he's been handling this public records request.
Okay.
One moment, please. We have a hand raised.
Yeah, there's a hand raised, I guess.
Caller, would you identify yourself, please?
Good evening, committee members. My name is Officer Robert Rueka. I'm currently the acting sergeant for the San Francisco Police Department's Media Relations Unit.
Okay, great. Could you send these late, I'm going to call them late messages, if you haven't already sent them to Rosa L, could you send those to her?
Absolutely. Would you want me to send those as of like right now?
I say within the next 24 hours, or I'm not sure if we're going to consider them here right now. But actually, if you could, why don't you do it right now so Rosa L at least has them? And I'm not asking Rosa L to necessarily read them through right now, but that way we at least know.
I'm already. Give me a moment to forward, and portions of what I sent in the email that you're referring to have been sent to the requester, Rosa L. But
Okay.
I will also forward the attached documents that were sent to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. Give me just a few moments.
And when it's a time for the respondents to talk, you can choose however you want to do it. And if you both need time that is going to go a little over 3 minutes, that's fine. But just, whoever has the best information for us on this. Okay. If Officer Rueka, do you need more time to do that, or should we go ahead with hearing from the parties?
Oh, feel free to hear from the parties. I am forwarding the attachments to the requester as we speak.
Okay, thank you. All right, so at this time, when our timer is ready, we're going to hear from petitioner Rosa L.
Rosa L., are you ready for your 3 minutes?
Yes.
Your 3 minutes begins now.
Great. Yes. So this request was submitted July 7th. Wasn't acknowledged until July 25th, and the figure was not released until August, I think, 19th, about a month and a half later. Also, some of the emails sent to me had confusing and conflicting dates. So yeah, I think another cut and dry violation of the Sunshine Ordinance. I did want to say I submitted it as an IDR. It was not treated as one. I'm not contesting that part, but I am contesting that either way. It violated the timeliness clause. And then I did want to just kind of reiterate that this is an ongoing problem. It's been happening for years, and it really renders the Sunshine Act virtually useless a lot of the time as it applies to SFPD, because often these kinds of records are needed, in a timely manner in accordance with the law. And when SFPD violates the law, it impacts the journalistic work that folks do. Again, just to emphasize, I kind of mentioned this about the mayor, but it's widely understood that SFPD has extreme delays with responding to requests. So lots of people either don't bother filing one or just don't follow up because it's very taxing to come to these meetings, right? And take hours out of people's evenings to try to get SFPD to comply. And so I just really, really urge SOTF to do everything in their power to, and SFPD representatives that are here to try to get this changed, because as it stands, I feel very much that the law is pretty useless in this case, which is a huge, huge disservice to the public, to the journalistic community, people that deserve transparency in their elected officials. So yeah, that's what I got.
Thank you. Okay. When the time is ready, let's now hear from the side of the respondent.
Lieutenant Beauchamp, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Your 3 minutes begins now.
Task force members, in regards to this complaint, the San Francisco Police Department does acknowledge that an inadvertent timeliness violation did occur. If you read Officer Rueka's response, I can also elaborate further. A individual member of the San Francisco Police Department did some inadvertent changes to our tracking system, Government QA, which caused the complaints and requests for pretty much the end of June through the majority of July to be improperly sent and tracked within our internal systems, which led to a number of requests not being applied to the correct units or being responded to in a upon my return back to the department at the end of July, I recognized this and made the appropriate changes so that the department would have the proper tracking and assignment within Government QA. The San Francisco Police Department does contest that this is not a request that would fall under IDR rules as being routine or basic information. The requester was requesting cost analysis for regular and overtime for the 2024 hill bombing, which is not readily available. It required us to reach out to our fiscal unit to attempt to compile that information. Officer Rueka can talk more about his contacts with the fiscal unit. We were able to provide a number for the overtime amounts that the San Francisco Police Department incurred due to the 2024 hill bombing. I believe, and sorry, Officer Rueka can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe there are any responsive records as to the regular costs due to an inability to capture them correctly.
Thank you. Okay, we may have some questions on this. I'm going to just quickly ask the petitioner, with obtaining the number 247,229 for the 2024 Dolores hill bomb, having obtained that, do you feel like there are other responsive documents that you think exist that you still want to receive?
At this point, I am not requesting further documents be received. I am simply contesting the time issue. And I just really want to quickly say there is always kind of a reason for the delay. And I've been here a lot of times. Y'all recognize me. I just really want to emphasize that there's been a reason for virtually every single request that I filed with SFPD. It has violated the law. So that's just really, 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 really concerning. And I just, to quote Kamala, we didn't fall out of coconut trees. This is a context thing. In context, this is one violation among many over many years. And I just really want to acknowledge that, because if we treat each one as an isolation, right, with their own its own cause that we only consider in isolation, then each one is sort of justifiable, right? But in context, again, this is effectively rendering the law ineffective if SFPD violates the law virtually every single time.
Thank you. Thank you. Member Stein, any questions?
No. I could make a motion, but.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I move that SOTF has jurisdiction over the matter, that the records are public, and to refer the matter to the SOTF consent calendar to find a timeliness violation, noting that the SFPD acknowledges that their response was not timely.
Second that.
Moved by Member Stein, seconded by Chair Schmidt, to find that this sunshine ordinance, to find that the task force has jurisdiction over the matter, that the requested records are public, and refer the matter to the consent calendar to find a timeliness violation, noting that the San Francisco Police Department notes that their response is not timely.
Yeah, I would just add a 6721 timeliness violation.
To find a 6721 timeliness violation. Public comment? Shall I call for public comment?
Yes, call public comment.
There's no one in the room. I believe the one caller that we have is Officer Ruka. One moment, please. We have no members of the public in the online community.
Okay, let's vote.
Chair Schmidt.
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Stein.
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Member Sugarman, absent. 2 ayes. The motion passes.
All right. Thank you to the parties. Thank you for all your participation on this. All right. Let's move to the next item.
Item 11, announcements, comments, questions, and future agenda items by members of the complaint committee.
Nothing. Okay, nothing. I don't think anyone has anything on that. No discussion, no action. So next item.
Item 12 is adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Adjourned at 7:13 p.m.
Right.
Ending the recording.
7:13. There we go. All right.